Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. So we've come to the end of another rotation of the Cursed City, rotation number 14, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've kept count. And, well, spoiler alert, you can see Soul Cross progress. We got stopped once again by one of the earlier stages, stage 8 in this case. So we'll talk about why that is a little bit later. But as per usual, let's start off with the normal side of things, because being in the end game, it is relatively expected that I can fully complete normal, as you can see by the full completion of all the quests there on normal. And then when it comes to hard, I'm able to complete all of the 3 lower areas of the Cursed City, so that being Plague Home, Cobble Market, and Dead Rise. So the majority of my progression is into Soul Cross hard, if and how far I can get to, but I'll also talk about the Amius teams that I used in this current rotation, just in case you guys haven't seen them before, or in case you're looking for inspiration for teams you could use to beat Amius. So let's talk about my progress into Sintranos here, which of course is not very far, starting with stage 1. I've mentioned it many times that my least favorite type of stage in the Cursed City is anything that restricts you solely to attack-based champions, because you don't have any support, and they're all super squishy, relatively speaking, and so basically if the enemies take a turn, people start dying, and it's very tragic. But in this case, we have a little bit of control. We have the Countess Lix in there, who's notably unbooked, and so she has ridiculously long cooldowns, but nonetheless, when she does get her abilities off, it is helpful. And then Allure is kind of our primary CC champion, because she does have that AoE sleep potential on her A2. And then we have 2 DPS, Razzlevarg and Halfrack, and then our debuffer here was Fleshmonger the Rare, believe it or not. Stage 2 is basically the exact same thing, except that it's Spirit Affinity this time, but still attack-based champions, and the core concept is still the same. We have 2 champions in there for CC, so True Fear from Mashald and the AoE freeze potential from Luria, and then we're filling in the space with 3 DPS, Nogdar, Varl the Destroyer, as well as Rule the Huntmaster. Stage 3 is basically identical. It's Spirit Affinity, once again attack-based, but slightly different factions. So we have the exact same duo for control, Mashald and Luria, but we're adding in the extra CC from Cleopteryx, who technically can place block active skills provided there's a Hex out there, which of course she brings in her kit, but also Rule the Huntmaster is making his return, and he can bring the Hex as well. And then Sun Wukong, of course, one of the best DPSs in the game. For stage 4, we finally get to use other champions aside from attack-based, and this was pretty straightforward. I have Angar, who has the AoE provoke, and a lot of, especially after the buff, he has a lot more reliable provoke in his kit, but we also have the AoE freeze from Yakarl, as well as the 2-turn provoke from Umbral Enchantress. So literally trifecta of control, a little bit of cleansing and protection from Tuhanarok, and then DPS from Suai Firstborn. Stage 5 is the Iron Twins, and I just threw together some champions I knew could beat the boss. So we have some protection and healing from Wither the Crowned. Wukong is going to revive himself when he starts to die in the later half of the phases. Varl is kind of just DPS until he dies, and there's no reviver notably on the squad. Brimstone we get from Gomlock Skyhide, and then Tila brings in some additional DPS in the form of HP burn, but also some additional healing in the form of continuous heals. On stage 6, this is the old tried and true one, except we made one swap out. I dropped the Armiger, who used to be on the squad, and we brought in the Valkyrie with the amazing shield and the counterattack, which synergized well with this team. But essentially, a little bit of control between Rockbreaker, AoE provoke. He's also in a frost set, so when he's hit, he can freeze them. So 2 forms of CC, AoE stun potential from Hosker Rule, the DPS and Shield Guard, and then kind of DPS with Newt, but also he can freeze when they're low turn meter when he depletes it, so kind of a little mix of CC, a little bit of damage, and then Valkyrie's in there just for protection. Stage 7 was definitely one of the trickier ones, but we're running this team. There's actually a lot of options I could have used. There could have been, Thea the Tomb Angel could work, Mad Hatter, one of the most recent fusions could work, Errol could have worked, Doom Priest, Mordecai, Aothar. So there's a lot of options, War Maiden as well, but I ultimately settled on this squad, and so we have a nice mix of control. We have decreased defense from 2 forms, from Thylesia as well as Bistafis, but Bistafis also notably has block active skills. And to pair with that, I have the additional CC of Lockout from Alika, and then Lady Arash is in there for pure DPS, and Rectored Wrath is our support for the squad. So lots of options. You could definitely play around with who can work and who's built and who do you have on your account, but this is the team that worked for me. Stage 23 was just using who you have, and so Awakening stages are always quite difficult, but we have Deacon in there, we have Arbiter in there, Grestham Angler, Daily Log and Reward, Theodore is kind of our primary DPS, and Grush is the secondary DPS with the AoE attacks, and then a little bit of protection from Skavix, cleansing, block debuffs, etc. This is definitely one of those cases where the stage is relatively easy to do, but if you don't have the right awakening on the right champions, it could be a lot harder to do. So we don't have much control on this squad, but Arbiter basically keeps everyone alive and running. Skavix is protecting us from any of their bad debuffs. We're manipulating turn meter with Deacon, and that's enough to cycle through the AoEs from Grush and then the poisons from Theodore. And with that brings us to the stage where I'm currently stuck, which is stage 8. Now, in fairness, I did get to use Spider for the first time. I built him out a few weeks ago, I think, or a few rotations ago, as well as Baroth the Blood Soaked, in anticipation of trying this stage. And unfortunately, we're still not able to beat it. But I think in the future, it could be possible. Mordecai's in there for the HP burn, increased attack, turn meter manipulation. Sentinel's in there because I use him for Magma Dragon and the Doom Tower, but he's nonetheless in a provoke set, which can be handy to provoke. And then Rian is supposed to be kind of our like reviver for the squad, but she doesn't have any resistance because she's built for accuracy, because she's more of an arena style champion with the buff strip and weaken. And so once people start dying, there's a Lydia. Actually, we can just hop in so you can see it, but there's a Lydia on the first wave, there's a Ray, there's 2 Rays, and there's a Vizix, and there's a Queen Ava, and it's just really hard to control them. Basically, it's just RNG fest and hoping that Sentinel places a lot of provokes. But if any of the provokes from his provoke set miss, then we're pretty much at the mercy of the wave. So Lydia can debuff, both of the Rays can freeze and buff strip, Lydia can provoke, or Vizix can provoke and replace the decreased speed, which slows us down, which helps them lap us, especially if Lydia goes as well, gets increased speed out there. Queen Ava can block revive, which is very deadly. And then if anyone dies, even if I try to revive them, the first revival is going to be blocked by Lydia. So it's very painful, and I was not able to get anywhere past the first wave. But thankfully, some of my clanmates were able to get through, and I actually noticed something that I completely forgot, which is the existence of Jamarsa, who is a kind of, AoE reviver instead of a single target reviver like Rian the Conjurer. I might still use both of them together, just use Rian to bait out the Lydia passive and then AoE revive with Jamarsa. But turns out that I actually didn't have Jamarsa, and I don't actually have her claimed just yet. But I did a little bit of work on my alt account, and I actually made sure that, where is it? Fragment Summon. I actually made sure that I can actually summon her in the near term. But yeah, I totally forgot about the referral system, because apparently I don't have any friends that play Raid. But I found my old login information for one of my alts, and just got it to level 10 so I could have Jamarsa in the future. So next time we see this version of Stage 8, I'll try more things. I'm thinking of putting her in like regen, high resistance, kind of, reviver type build, and kind of seeing what she can do. Rain check on that one. But if anyone does want to volunteer to be this slot for me and, get to level 50 on their new account, not that you need to start a new account for me, but if you happen to be working on a new account or planning to start a new one, then, let me know in the comment section down below. I could hook you up with the link, and you might be able to get me, I guess, 2 Sacred Shards and a Void Shard long term. Who knows? No pressure. Let me also walk you through the team that I used to beat Amius this go round, starting with the hard version of it. And we have this team, which is definitely odd at first glance, and you're wondering where on earth is the hero reduction champion. But this is the weird method where effectively Riho Bonespear is our hero reduction champion, because as long as I have her place continuous heals with her A1 at the right time, right before he changes from Form 1 into Form 2, he takes that continuous heal, flips it into hero reduction, and puts it on Riho Bonespear, but then her passive kicks in, and she reflects it back to the boss. Therefore, he basically puts hero reduction on himself, and from then on we can just continue with the trifecta of DPS, Harima, Narcisse, and Stultus, just doing the damage. We don't have Brimstone on the squad, and then Ugo's in there just as a debuffer, as well as an emergency heal in case Riho happens to get low. And it also does feel a little bit like cheating, but Harima is also a good tank for Form 2. One, her passive reduces his ignore defense, but also she's 6-star awakened, so it's reduced even more by that. So basically he just tickles her in Form 2, and we just carry on our merry way. And that's why we don't have to worry about reviving anyone over the course of this fight. The normal version is more what you'd expect to see, where we have a heal reduction in Venomage, tried and true. We have a healer, cleanser, reviver, and Python to protect the team, keep everyone alive. Ally protection from Jereg to protect us in Form 2 when he tries to kill one of our team. And then we have dual DPS in Narcisse and Fenix. Those could be practically anyone, but in that case, I'm just choosing those two because they're easy to use. So in terms of this rotation for the Cursed City, I didn't have to build anyone new to beat anything nothing new, but nonetheless, I'll mention the two champions that I did build fairly recently, one of which was a swap into one of the stages on stage 6, and the other is probably one I'm going to be using in the future for the Cursed City because I've heard she's pretty darn good. So the first one is, of course, Valkyrie, who I do have built in a Guardian set with Resilience. This is optimized for my Demon Lord Clan Boss team. Stay tuned for that Valkyrie showcase coming very, very soon, but her total stats are as follows: 52,000 on the HP, 7.3k on the defense, 251 on the speed, and the accuracy and resistance were not that important, as you can tell. For the Blessing, I was testing her out in hard mode Fire Knight, and so I went with Phantom Touch just to increase the amount of hits we can get into the shield. And then for the Masteries, these are relatively Demon Lord Clan Boss optimized, so offense and defense tree want to be as tanky and survivable as possible because, of course, it is a traditional team, so it's not unkillable, so we do want to stay alive. War Master, of course, because we do want to deal extra damage to the boss. It does add up a lot over the course of a longer battle. And then we're making sure to end on deterrence and retribution because counterattack. Obviously, she brings counterattack in her kit, but that's more just to get to deterrence because when the clan boss does the stun, there's a chance that anyone on the team who happens to have deterrence can counterattack, and it's just more damage, more potential for War Master hits. And then the second champion that I built out was Morag Bronzelock. I know she's been used many, many times in the Cursed City, but I actually didn't have her until fairly recently, and I got her from the Plarium Points program thing where they added her in for like the 1250 points or whatever. So I got her a couple of weeks back or so, built her out in anticipation of using her in the Cursed City. Have not yet used her, but looking forward to that in the future. And she's just in Resilience for the extra defense and HP, and then one piece of Supersonic is just kind of happenstance. So her total stats: 40,000 on the HP, 4,000 on the defense, 223 on the speed. She's effectively full crit rate, don't have the last mastery, but plus the 5 from the mastery should get her to 100%, 185 on the crit damage, and then don't really care about the accuracy or resistance. She's kind of just built for damage, but as you can see, none of the gear, or most of the gear, isn't really maxed, so those aren't really her final stats, but it's kind of close to where she's going to end up. As you can see, she has no awakening, so there's no blessing at the moment. She is booked, of course, because she's an epic, and of course no masteries at all because she's just a Cursed City champion. So there you have it. That's going to do it for my progression into rotation 4 of Soul Cross Hard, stopped once again fairly early on by one of the early gates, that being S6 or S8. And I think, once I build up Jamarsa, I'll try in some future state, obviously not in this rotation because I'm out of time and I have to wait for a champion chase to try and be a little bit more efficient when I summon her for the 250 points in the upcoming champion chase, probably this upcoming weekend. But yeah, at this point, I think there's like one version of S6 that I can't beat, and now this is still the one version of S8 that I can't beat of the 5 different versions within the Cursed City rotation. So I'm close to not regularly having this issue, but nonetheless, I still need to solve a couple of stages, and then I can more consistently get out into the outer stages and work more on who needs to help me out there, because sometimes I'm pretty confident there's probably some iterations of these later stages that I've just never seen or done yet, just because I've been stopped so many times by S6 or S8. I don't realistically anticipate that I'll be able to fully clear Soul Cross Hard one day, but you never know. Maybe we'll get lucky with the right champions over time and kind of go from there, but one thing at a time. So let me know in the comment section down below how far you were able to make it in this rotation of the Cursed City. And if you did manage to beat stage 8, let me know the team that you used, or let me know of any other champions you've used that have proved successful to beat this particular stage. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit that subscribe button down below for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.